Bondurant, thank you so much for being here today as part of the True Stories Lab. It is exciting to have storytelling here locally that's getting out stories that go beyond Florida man, Florida woman. So, right. For those of you who may not know Eugenie Bondurant, her career has moved between the runways of New York and Paris to featured roles in film and television, including her breakout role as the cult icon Tigress in the Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2, appearances on television including everything from Saturday Night Live to HBO's Arliss. There's this and so much more about her film and television career on IMDb, but she's also a cabaret singer and one of the founders of the Radio Theater Project here in St. Petersburg. She was even just a few days ago awarded the short film that she just wrapped with local artist Susanna Darwin, Longer, won Best Film in the Venice Film Festival. She's just so active, doing so many things, but always, and this is something that I noticed, telling other people's stories. And when I first met you, Eugenie, I just was really captivated and struck by your charisma, your ability to tell a story. And so I was so thrilled that you agreed to come on here and tell a true personal story of your own. So
you're putting me on the spot. I appreciate it.
No. Well, it's outside your comfort zone, to say the least. It's not your usual MO, and you've got a really impressive resume of storytelling, but again, other people's stories. Even songs are other people's stories.
That's true.
You bring your own experience to it, but this is a completely different way to do it. You're also part of Andy Matheny's acting studio, one of the lead teachers there, a well-known Meisner teacher. I could just go on, but I want to get to your story so that then we can talk about your experience of like storytelling. So this story is called The Forgery, and what I'll do is I'll spotlight your video without anything further from me. Here is Eugenie Bondurant.
I was a 27-year-old runway fashion model living in Paris. It was my third time to Paris doing this, and how that came about is you were scouted to join with an agency, and you were usually scouted by your mother agent or some scout. Now, this was back in the day where it was by phone, fax, snail mail, and delivery. That was the means of transportation, getting things to and fro. So my agent at the time was with Ford. It was a new agent, Ford Runway, and they scouted me to join Java in Paris. And I was already going to Europe. I had a booking in Germany. So I thought, I'll just scooch on down to Paris and meet with Java. It didn't mean that it guaranteed employment, or that you would sign with the agency, but it did give you an entree in, and they were waiting for you. So I'm in Paris, and Java is located in a typical French 3-story building with the tiny stairway and the tiny halls. And it is in one room, brightly lit. And on one side of the wall are, from the top to the bottom, are papered with models' comp cards, 5x7 comp cards. And they're looking beautiful and all these, crazy, wonderful poses. And in the corner, what you see are models hanging about, like 2 or 3 models were hanging about, probably smoking a cigarette back then. And a flurry of agents surrounding an oval table in the middle with these lazy Susans that would go and twirl around because that's where the files were. And they're all talking rapidly in French in the room. I walk in, and I know the drill. You walk into these agencies and you pretend that you don't care, even though you really do care. You dress simply and you hold your book and you wait for them to acknowledge you. And that's what I did. So finally, they say, Eugenie, and they grab my book and they look and they ask me promptly how old I am. Well, I knew at 27 that was grandmother age in a modeling agency. You just didn't say you're that old. So, and there are a couple of things that are the truths of this business. One, everybody lies about their height. If they're 5'8", they're 5'9". If they're 6'1" like me, they're 5'11" and a half. So that's number one. Number two is they lie about their age. And if you're 27, for the past several years that I've been modeling, I lied about my age. So when they asked me how old I was, I said 24. Still, that was considered old back then. So, and it probably still is, who knows. But anyway, I tell them I'm 24, they look at my book. I know enough French to hear them saying the word vieux, which means old. She's too old, she's this, we can't do anything with her. And then one person says, you know what? We'll part her hair down the middle, we'll cut it off. My hair was long and beautiful. We'll cut it off. She'll dress simply, no makeup. We'll send her out, she's gonna look like a man. Oh my gosh, welcome into this market. It was really great. So all of them in unison turned around to me and said, welcome to the agency. I was so excited. And then they said, can we have your passport? Okay, my passport. No, it was actually in my purse that said that I was 27. And they're in one room. I said, oh my gosh, you know, it's in the hotel. I can't believe I forgot it. But next time I come, I'll bring it and you can copy it. So I scramble back to my hotel and I get out the gel pen that I had. And I, fortunately for me, the age worked out so that I could, in my mind, temporarily forge and make some of those numbers the age that I told them that would correlate with the age that I told them, the year of birth. So I bring it in, they make a copy, everything's good. Now, in this business, how things work out is you would call the agency twice a day. So there's no cell phone, there's no computer. So you call them and you got your go-seats. And so I called them and per usual, and I said, you know, what's going on? And I was getting work, I was getting bookings. Evidently my look of the parted hair was working. And I know it was because I got a card and they got my card and they whited out all my pretty long hair and they sharpied in my hair to look like it was stark and straight and black and coming onto my face. So I figured, well, I'm lying, they're lying, it's all good, it's fine. But anyway, I call and they say, oh, you're supposed to meet Barbara tomorrow, the accountant, at this cafe. You're going to the police. I'm going to the police. Okay. We have to have you registered to work in France. Well, that's how it works. You see, you register with the government if you are getting bookings and you're earning money. And that's how someone who's not in that country ends up working legally. So I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what do I do? Because honestly, I got that passport and I don't want to walk around as a liar. So I immediately, cleaned up my passport, which you can do because that page is covered in plastic. It's not really covered in plastic. It's like laminated and you just smush it off, right? So the next day I meet Barbara at the cafe at noon. And we're sitting in the cafe and she brings out these papers. She says, sign these, please, saying that they're valid and correct. And I look at the papers and there is my wrong date of birth, year of birth. And what do I tell her? What do I do? Do I say, oh no, you know what? I've been lying to you this whole time and I give up this fabulous agency that loves me and I give up this career that's finally working, it's finally clicking. They love me, I love them, I'm working, I'm making a lot of money, but still, it's great. What do I do? Do I fess up to her and she goes back and I leave and I leave the country? Do I say, okay, yeah, it's fine, and then hand her over the legitimate passport that I unforged, if you can ever do that. What do I do? So I look at her and I say, I have to go to the bathroom. And I'm hoping in my mind as I'm walking to the bathroom, God, please let it be a normal bathroom, like an American one, instead of one of those French pee holes where there's nothing but God. There's an actual toilet seat. Please, God, please let me have the pen in my purse. I know I've got my passport in there. Please, my hands are shaking and I don't know what to do. Please let there be a pen. What am I supposed to do here? I know, I've got to supposed to be doing something. Please let there be the pen. Here's my pen. Please, God, let me get through this with humility and let there be a lesson in here somewhere. Please let me just get through this. I'm thinking as I reforge my passport. And I walk out and I give it to her. And we walk into the prefecture of police. The station is beautiful. It's new. It's glass. It's stark. It's gorgeous. It's French. And up comes the officer. And they speak in French, she and Barbara. And she hands over all of what I think is my life that I don't know whether I'll ever see again. And it walks away. She comes back. He comes back, excuse me. Comes back. And he hands her the information. My passport, the papers that I had signed that were forged. He says a few words to her and he looks right at me. And he doesn't say a word, he just stares at me. Which feels like an hour. And I feel like he's going to take me any minute. And I'm praying, please God, get me through this. Please don't let this happen. Please don't let me turn around. Please don't let me close this agency because of this stupid thing I did. Don't let me do that. I'm an idiot. And he walks away. And she looks at me and she says, are you ready? Let's go. And then, are you okay? And I say, yeah, every time I go into a police agency, I feel like I've done something wrong. And I had. And you know what? I still forge. That was my last time to Paris, working in that capacity. I ended up moving to Los Angeles. But I do still forge. I probably just forged my husband's name on an insurance document. So.
Lesson learned. Sometimes forging gets you a job. Woo!
Sometimes forgery gets you a job. And it did. I ended up working in.
Yeah.
I was very grateful. I tell you, it still shakes me. It really does.
Yeah.
That.
Well, I'll tell you what. Oh, I love that story. Do you want to sit down now and just relax? We'll chat.
I'm good. I'm going to stand up.
All right.
Well, now I'm exhausted.
So what I love about that story is there are so many, you do a great job of like painting a scene, and there are so many details that I know that you had to leave out of that story in order to make it kind of cohere and to make it followable. And, you know, I just, how did you kind of arrive, or what made you decide these are definitely the things that I'm going to include? And even from the last time I saw you do this story, you've made some changes to it. And I just think it gets stronger and stronger every time you work on it.
Well,
right?
Number one, I have a good coach. Her name is Lisa Kirsch.
No.
Thank you. And then, you know, it's just like what you had said, you do it again and again and again, and you filter out the things that are not as important. And what you had said to me was, there are certain details, and there are details that are repeated this time, which in the story, which if I did refine it even more, I would get rid of those details that I just repeated and repeated and repeated, because the viewer doesn't really need to hear that again and again and again. It's refine and refine and refine, and all these other details can be put into a different story, you know, like, and I've got dozens of them. I mean, more than dozens of them in modeling stories, right and left, and experiences working in Paris and experiences working in New York. And, yeah.
But yeah, exactly. You can take those details and use them in others. But for instance, in this one, you included a detail that I don't remember from before, which was the lazy Susan with the files.
Oh.
That was so great. I was like, oh my gosh, see it now. They're, you know, they're like,
it's exactly right. Drinking coffee, smoking cigarettes with the lazy Susan going around, and speaking rapidly in French. I'm sure they think we speak rapidly in English, you know, but if you're not as familiar with the language, it's, you know, they're like little birds tweeting about. And
I am curious though, did you cut your hair between your first visit and by the time you started going on the go-sees, or did you just like put it back into a thing? What happened?
No. So here's the thing. They had told me to cut my hair, this agent, and you're gonna cut your hair, you're gonna part it down the middle, you're not gonna wear any makeup, and you're not gonna speak much, and you're gonna be grounded like this instead of being feminine. Okay. And then I realized, androgynous.
Right.
And I worked that way. I mean, that really started, the trend really started to come in at that point. So, and you know, you're working in Paris and it's the trendsetter. So I didn't know this. I still loved my long hair. My long hair was a badge of honor for me. Number one, I'd never been able to wear my hair long as a child. And number two, I had grown that hair out from chemotherapy. So let me tell you, I deserved that. That was a badge of honor. So cutting that hair, wasn't gonna happen quickly. And they said, no, cut your hair. They even set up an appointment for me to do that with their, you know, hairdresser that they used all the time. And I skipped it. And so they would send out that card, literally. I think I still have it somewhere, the card, the actual Z card, where you see this, you see me, I'm in the typical white shirt that's, you know, wet, white button-up shirt, and I'm coming like this, and you know, here's the long hair, and the hair is wet and wavy, and chop, white out, Sharpie, Sharpie, Sharpie. That's what my roommate at the time, who was with Java as well, said, do you know how they're sending you? How they're submitting you? How they're selling you? This is what you look like. I had no idea. I went, okay, got it. I got a haircut. So it was about a month. And
that would be a funny way to introduce that story, and talking about the whole hair journey and how, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Those are just stories with heart, but I love a fun story too. And you know, it really is meaningful and impactful to you because you pride yourself on being good.
Yes.
And you don't have to say that once in your story. You don't have to tell us this is a story about how this good girl behaved badly. Do you know what I mean? You don't have to announce it. You're telling the details of the story tells us that. And I just love it.
You know what was empowering? Something that you had done. You gave a class that I took with you, the class that we took together that you were leading, and you gave us the grid, and you put on there what, good, better, least, worst, or something like that, and then dangerous. And to me, that was, or I think dangerous was the category, or fearful. That's my heart catcher. Fear. I mean, there are been a lot of things certainly going through, you know, that whole cancer scare was one thing, but that was a scare of, and just like what you said, it tied in my premise of being, you know, nice to people and making them feel comfortable and trying to be good with doing something stupid, you know, and for me, try to advance my career. Anyway.
So what is next for you? I know you're teaching Meisner right now online, which is an amazing I loved that class.
And
What,
so much. Actually, Paul and I are working on.
that's her husband, for viewers who don't know.
Oh, that's right. That's my husband.
Not my
Paul and I, that's right, exactly. Paul and I are working on songs right now for another cabaret that we're putting together. And we're working with 2 other people on that, which is great. So there are going to be 4 of us and doing a lot of harmonizing. I'm also getting ready to do the.
What's the genre show? What's the? Like,
You know what? Instead of the American Songbook series, we're doing songs we love. One of them being "All You Need Is Love," right? A lot of harmonizing in that. So, and another song that we're just picking up that I'm reprising the song is. Get Out of Town. Not very many people know it, but it's a really fun, get out of town. Like you're doing too much to me. You arouse too much in me. So it's quite fun. And we've got a lot of songs. We've had time to work on that music, which is great. And I'm also getting ready to take the next round of murals for the St. Pete Mural Tour. I'm a voiceover artist, so that's been great. I've been putting together unfortunately slowly putting together my voiceover studio. And,
I can't believe I forgot about that in your intro, because we have
right.
girls around the city, and you actually have done a recorded tour of those murals.
I have. Every year we get the new crop from the year before, and we bring them out right before the Shine Festival starts. So that's very exciting. There's a website, St. Pete Art Alliance sponsors that, and is, it's part of the St. Pete Arts Alliance, and you can go around and look at the different murals and listen to the description. And it tells you all kinds of juicy information, detailed information about the murals and the colors and artists and whatnot.
So much that's happening in St. Pete. It's hard to keep track, and that's a beautiful position to be in. And you are so integral to so much that's going on in so many areas of the arts. And you've been a great person for me to get to know and expand my horizons too, because you have also really opened up my mind to the possibilities in so many ways. And we could talk about that forever, but I want to focus on you, so we're going to stay. I'll give you these compliments later. But anyway, thank you so much for being my first guest on the True Stories Lab series. We're going to highlight and focus on storytellers here in the community, and I appreciate it. And I appreciate you.
It is an honor, Lisa Kirshner.